were a rhythm and blues band. We played rhythm and blues classics.
The Zombies weren't really a guitar band. They were more a keyboard band around Rod Argent. I ran into Rod Argent and he said, let's start a band. And we put a band together. Hugh Grundy was our drummer.
In your mind, could you ever be really close to me?
I heard Colin sing. I mean, that's the thing. And I thought, my goodness, you know, what a great voice. Because you've got to be really singing.
They were looking for new bass players, so I went along to rehearsals, and that's when we started doing three-part harmonies.
The band got together. I believe you entered a battle of the bands.
We did, yeah.
And the prize was a Decca recording contract.
Yeah.
And you won.
We did win. We were really, really surprised. As I remember it, we were talking to our then producer, Ken Jones, and he said, you know, you could always write something for this session. Rod picked up on it, and he went away and wrote this song.
It all happened so quickly. It was happening before we even realised it.
18 years, you know, and we had number one in this hallowed land in America. It was fantastic.
And Susanna went on to sell nearly 1 million copies.
All of a sudden we found ourselves with a record on the charts, tours to do and interviews to give.
That first 3 years on the road, we were preparing for Odyssey and Oracle. It all came together on that album.
We'd heard Pet Sounds had been knocked out. It was revolutionary. It was really a mature, progressive way of looking at what you could do with a pop song.
We were in Abbey Road, which was undoubtedly the best studio in the world at that time. We were recording with Jeff Emerick, who had just been recording with the Beatles.
John Lennon had got the mellotron in the studio, which he didn't take away. So I just jumped on it and just used it.
People like Al Cooper, Paul Weller, Dave Grohl, and Tom Petty, they quote it as being influencing on them.
It is a classic LP, and there is no better sounding record to this day.
By the time the season was a hit, it was 18 months after we'd recorded it.
The irony is that the original Zombies were only actually professional for 3 years.
Let me tell you, when you're on stage, the feeling is absolutely no different to when you were 18 years old. It really isn't.
Please welcome Susanna Hoffs.
TheZombies for as long as I can remember. I first heard them when I was a very little girl in the 1960s. In the backseat of my mom's station wagon. And though their music played through a tinny car radio, its elegance, soulfulness, tonal textures, and foggy London intrigue found me on the sunny palm-lined streets of Los Angeles. It was love at first listen. I may not have understood the sophisticated mix of influences in their songs, jazz, classical, baroque, rhythm and blues, but none of that mattered to the little girl in the station wagon. Their music seemed to defy the laws of physics, reaching through space and time to thrill and enthrall me as if by magic. Whatever they were doing, I thought to myself, I want to do that. When I grow up, I want to do that too. They were just teenagers when they started the band in St. Albans, not far from London. Rod, a choir boy, Hugh, a drummer in the marching band, Chris played bass, and Paul played guitar, and Colin played rugby, which I can hardly imagine. He had to have been the kindest bloke you could ever knock heads with in a rugby scrum. But by the time they were 18, the lads had a #1 hit in America with She's Not There, quickly followed by Tell Her No. Both songs were written by budding songwriter Rod Argent, who just so happened to be a virtuoso on the keyboards. Rod's expressive playing would define the Zombies' distinctive sound, along with Chris and Paul's ingenious guitar work and chiming 3-part harmonies, and Hugh, your iconic, hypnotic drumming. And of course, Colin's magnificent, mellifluous voice. The band's songs are a case study in craft and excellence, but even more importantly, the kind of songs you want to put on a mixtape or play on a boombox beneath someone's window because they say the things you want to say and express the feelings you want to share with someone but may not have the nerve to. Songs like You Make Me Feel Good, The Way I Feel Inside, and I Love You. Sincere, heartfelt gems delivered with unflinching, undeniable passion, which brings me to their masterpiece, the astonishing album, Odyssey and Oracle. Rod, your brilliant Time of the Season, Care of Cell 44, and A Rose for Emily. A Rose for Emily this song is a miracle. It captures profound loneliness in the most tender way, and the hauntingly beautiful melody is so transcendent, it breaks our hearts, yet somehow still manages to lift us up. And Chris, your extraordinary songwriting contributions to this album, Brief Candles, Beechwood Park, and This Will Be Our Year, a song that will be played as long as lovers vow their love to one another. With lyrics like, the warmth of your love's like the warmth from the sun, and don't let go of my hand, now the darkness is gone. And these words of comfort, you don't have to worry, all your worried days are gone. I mean, who doesn't want to hear someone say that to them? I'm always happy to listen to Colin sing them to me, which brings me to Colin. Colin, your wondrous voice. There aren't enough adjectives. The tone and timbre of it, like silk and velvet and linen, woven through each and every syllable you sing. And no one sings longing like you, my friend. Not to mention the sighs and the oohs. I'll just say it. Your voice is just plain sexy.
Finally, somebody said it.
But it's your fearless ability to emote at the risk of exposing your deepest emotions and vulnerabilities that is rare and brave and authentic and absolutely inspiring. My love affair with the Zombies may have started in the 60s, but the now 60-year-old me loves them still, even more, as I've had the great privilege of knowing what fine human beings they are, and the great fortune of seeing them perform many times, watching them inspire a whole new generation of music lovers. But that's the thing about music. It knows no boundaries, no borders. It travels straight to our hearts. I listen to the Zombies every day on those same palm-blind streets of my youth, because quite honestly, I need a little dose of their particular sonic alchemy, and it never fails to touch me, inspire me, excite and dazzle me, to make me feel less alone, to lift me when I'm down, and even when their music moves me with its poignancy to tears, it reminds me of what it is to be alive, to be human, and of the power of song and music to connect us all. So Colin, Rod, Chris, Hugh, and Paul, thank you for the music and the inspiration. This will be your year. It took a long time to come.
That's right. That is
It's my
here.
great honor, a highlight of my life, to induct the Zombies into the Rock and Roll.
Well, Susanna, thank you for some really, really gorgeous words. You know, to sit there and listen to that is really fantastic. But you know, on behalf of all the guys in the band, I can say that we're absolutely thrilled and delighted to have been elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. To be honest, it's felt honour enough to have been nominated 4 times in the last 5 years. But to have finally passed the winning post this time, fantastic.
Very cool, very cool.
And you know, a wonderful coincidence to all of us standing here in Brooklyn, the site of our very first concert in America when we did the Marvin Gaye show, Christmas Day 1964, 8 o'clock in the morning, playing with some of our heroes like Benny King, Drifters, Patti LaBelle, who became a real friend and mentor at that time. But it's actually 50 years ago to this very day, the 29th of March, 1969, that time of the season reached the #1 position.
Funny how it all works out.
When I actually received the phone call, I couldn't help my mind racing back to one magical day in 1956 that's always remained vivid in my memory, when my cousin, 4 years older than me, played me 2.5 minutes of music, which changed my life. That music was Elvis Presley singing Hound Dog. That cousin was Jim Rodford, who many of you will remember as the great bass player who later co-founded Argent with me, and for 15 years, the powerhouse driving the Kinks rhythm section. And of course, also until his tragic accidental death a year ago, playing fantastically energised bass with the version of TheZombies that Colin and I have loved touring with for the last 19 years. Do you know, for those who didn't live through the 50s, it's really hard to imagine the enormous cultural gulf which existed between England and America at that time. Elvis himself was a god, and in some of the first footage that we saw in England, seemed to us like an alien super being from a distant universe. I was 11 years old, and I couldn't in any way imagine being part of the same world, but nevertheless, couldn't wait to try to find some like-minded people to start playing the music with. And that chance came about in 1961. My God, how long ago was that? when 5 of us from adjoining schools excitedly got together to form a group. Paul Atkinson, Hugh Grundy, Colin Blunstone, Paul Arnold and myself, Rod Argent. Within a year, Paul Arnold had been replaced by Chris White, and that was it, we were off. These early years were something of a dream. By 1964, we got a recording contract with Decca, and then, unbelievably, by Christmas, found ourselves topping the US charts with our first record, She's Not There. This magic land, which only 8 years before had seemed so unimaginably remote and unconquerable, and even more unbelievably, something we didn't find out until many years later, Elvis actually had our records on his jukebox. I could not believe that when I found that out. In 1969, the Zombies had another massive #1, Time of the Season. But we'd already broken up due to the lack of initial success with our final album, Odyssey and Oracle, an album that we put our heart and soul into. This album was very dear to our hearts, as Chris and I had written all the songs on the record and for the first time produced our own material. It was to go on to have a huge story in its own right, and at this point we have to say thank you to Al Cooper, who believed in and fought for it from the very beginning. Without his help, it may have never been released, and we have to thank him massively because it spawned a story that still continues 50 years later. It's been quite inspiring to us how many people have championed us from that moment on. Iconic artists like the dear late Tom Petty, like, thank you Tom, God bless you. Like Paul Weller, who's been such a fantastic friend to us and to the album. Like Dave Grohl, like Susanna Hoffs, and also many young bands, right up until the present day, Cage the Elephant, the Lemon Twigs, Portugal the Man. We owe so much to these people and have to thank them enormously. And I must also shout out to the wonderful touring band who've accompanied Colin and me over the last 19 years. Steve Rodford, Jim Rodford, Tom Toomey, Søren Kopp, and to our fab sound man, Dale Hansen.
Amen. Super Dale.
They've been a constant inspiration, and we've loved making albums of new material with them. The most recent of which actually made the Billboard Top 100 in 2015.